Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. The topic for this video is one that has been a big discussion point ever since we got view of the versus card showcasing Reina and Viper. Is the child in the card Reina or her sister? To address this question, we're gonna take a look at who Viper and Reina are, how they relate to each other, and the most common conclusions about what the card actually shows. Let's get into it. To answer the question who is Viper, I'll lay down the relevant aspects with respect to the card. Viper is a scientist, more specifically a chemist, who used to work in the field of medicine as hinted at in the following line.
Just think, Sabine. You used to heal with your skill. Funny.
This line has been used to say that Viper is a Radiant with healing powers, but this is not the case. Viper is a Radianite tech user who uses her knowledge in chemistry to create toxic substances, and it's that same knowledge that she previously used to heal instead of harm. Coming back from that little tangent, let's talk about her age. Although we don't have exact numbers, we can estimate that she is a bit younger than Brimstone, but older than most agents. This estimate comes from this conversation between Viper and the commander.
Brimstone, we really need to put an age floor on Valorant. I can't take this youth.
They're the future, Sabine. You know you care about them.
My reasoning is that they both talk about the youth as something distant, but Viper is younger than the commander since she is never told to retire as Brimstone is. We also know that Viper has worked for Kingdom in the past, although it's not clear what she worked on. We are certain she worked for the corporation through this line you may have heard her say in Bind.
The lies we've told this city. Just to pry it open and suck it dry.
Many of Viper's other voice lines, which you can find in the description, depict her as someone who is sadistic and in many cases insane. This is a huge part of her personality, but we have to keep in mind that she likely wasn't always like this. And that's Viper all laid out. Before moving on to Reina though, there is another important agent we need to discuss, and that is Agent 04, Killjoy. Yeah, although the German engineer isn't directly depicted on the card, she has played a major role in many of the theories surrounding this versus dynamic, so let's lay her out too. Killjoy is one of the youngest members of the Valorant protocol, having Brimstone as her mentor. Although she participates in battles with the protocol, her genius, as she calls it, is best put to work in the lab where she creates a variety of machines, including the Spike, as indicated by the following lines.
I built literally everything on this battlefield. Yeah, even the things that might kill us. What? You want me to say sorry? Oh, do I have to attach legs to the Spike now?
I must make the distinction between creating the machines and using them. In many cases, it is assumed that Killjoy is the one that uses all her creations, but we have seen this is not true. The last relevant aspect about the engineer is her relationship with Kingdom. Although some of her creations, such as the Spike, are used by the corporation, it is unclear if she worked directly under them or if she worked by herself and reached an agreement with Kingdom. Given her close relationship with Brimstone and the interactions regarding tests that she has with Viper, it is more likely that she worked or that she still works under Kingdom. That being said, there are no explicit mentions to the relationship. Okay, we're done with Killjoy. It's now time for Reina. By her own words, Reina has had to lie and kill to remain alive. As revealed by David Nottingham, she has been mistreated by humanity and as a result has developed a strong hate and desire for revenge towards non-Radiants. Before going deeper into that though, we have to talk about her age. We have two sources of information to reach a conclusion, one of which is very apt to interpretation. This is where the arguments for answering the is the child in the card Reina or her sister question start to get very cloudy. On one hand, we have So Marcus's interview with Karina Altamirano, Reina's voice actress, to which I will leave a link in the description. In it, Karina mentions that while recording voice lines, she was told Reina is somewhere in her 20s. She was also told that her life experiences made her speak as if she was older. So from this source, we could rightfully assume that Reina is indeed in her 20s, correct? Well, kind of. Like I said, the other source for her age, her interactions with other agents, is very apt to interpretation. There are two main voice lines to account for, so let's hear them.
Hey Reyna, how old are you? No shade, you look great, but, sometimes you say the strangest things.
Oh, Jet, I remember being so young. It's good that she'll die before feeling old like me.
These two lines are saying that Reina is older than both Phoenix and Jet, and that is for certain. But it is hard, if not impossible, to pinpoint exactly how much older. We could say that given Phoenix's line Reina is much older than both, very near Viper's age, But if we take into account what her voice actress explained in the interview about how she speaks as if she were older, her line with Jet could be interpreted as Reyna simply being tired of the life she has had to live. Knowing this, and although after a lot of thinking I've reached a point where I believe that Reyna is indeed in her 20s, I will later discuss both sides. Now, back to her desire for revenge. Many voice lines show that Reyna is a bloodthirsty Radiant. But why is that? One of the big motives, although likely not the only one, is her hermanita. In her dialogue we can find two references to this hermanita, one explicit and the other one not so much. Let's listen to the lines before talking about the second one.
For you, hermanita, I remember the machines Killjoy made. What they did to... Never mind. It does not matter.
It is safe to assume that the second line is talking about her sister, given that we know no other person Reyna is attached to. Going even further, in another section of Shawn Marcus's interview, Reyna's voice actress says that her sister is dead, which fits perfectly with this line. Of course, we cannot overlook the fact that Killjoy's machines were responsible for this death. Let's also keep in mind what I said earlier about Killjoy though. She is not always the one operating her creations, so we cannot say with certainty that Killjoy directly murdered Reyna's sister. Let's also go over the word itself, hermanita. The literal translation is little sister, so at first glance we can conclude that Reyna is older than her sister. Problem is, depending on the context, this diminutive could be interpreted as a sign of affection and not an indication of age. And that's not all either, as even if we consider that her sister is younger, we still don't know how much younger she is. It could be a year or it could be a decade. What I'm trying to say is that we cannot use her sister's age as a determining factor. We can, however, put all the ages on a scale to get some perspective. We have 4 people to put on the scale, that being Viper, Reyna, Killjoy and Reyna's sister, and we'll also add Phoenix and Jet for the lower age ceiling and Brimstone for the top ceiling. First we have Viper. When I was laying her out, I said that she is a bit younger than Brimstone, so let's go ahead and add her there. Next up is Killjoy, and since she is amongst the young ones in the protocol, I'll place her near Phoenix and Jet. Keeping in mind what I said about Reyna's age, I'll place her in a wider range, from around the same age as Killjoy up to somewhere below Viper. Last one is Reyna's sister, and we have absolutely no clue as to where we can place her, so let's put her to the side. This is the closest I could get to ranking them by age, and since I will be discussing a lot of possibilities regarding the card itself, I will move around each agent's avatar to represent how old the agent would be in that specific possibility. The last thing we need to analyze are the contents of the card itself, although since there is not a high resolution image of the card available at the time of recording, the analysis will be somewhat limited. Finally, there are no details that are only visible on the horizontal card, so I'll only display the vertical version. The most prominent element is of course the woman dressed in a lab coat, Viper, and the focus of this whole video, the child. The two are holding hands, most likely because the scientist is leading the child somewhere. We also see a doll on the girl's left hand. Jason on the VALORANT Lore /art Discord server pointed out that it looks like the Marías, traditional Mexican dolls manufactured by the Matahua Otomi people. This is definitely possible given Reyna's Mexican origins, but without a better look at the doll, I'm not comfortable digging more into the topic. There will be a couple links in the description if you want to dig in yourself though. The K on the doorway Viper and the little girl are heading towards is Kingdom's logo, meaning that what we see in the card is taking place inside a building of the corporation. This reinforces the idea of Viper having worked for Kingdom. There are also screens in both sides of the hallway. The contents of the one to the left are unrecognizable, but the one to the right displays the face of a person as well as helix spirals, the shape DNA takes. Although the resolution of the image prevents any form of predicting who the person is, the spirals allow us to deduce that the building is a laboratory or a medical center. Finally, and similarly to every other Versus card, we find an upper body image of the Radiant and the Scientist. And with all that information, we are ready to start discussing which is the answer to the big question. Is the child in the card Reyna or her sister? There are lots of things to consider, and I'm sure that if I miss any, they will be pointed out in the comments, but that being said, buckle up. Let's begin by considering that the little girl is Reyna. For this to be the case, there should be a large age difference between the Radiant and the Scientist, which is the case if Reyna is truly in her 20s. The resulting age scale would be the one you see on screen, where Reyna's age is less than 10 and Viper's is around 20. Given those ages and that Killjoy is younger than Reyna, this would make the engineer be no more than a toddler. As a result, the machines that killed Reyna's sister haven't been created yet, so she would still be alive. The only problem with this interpretation is that there are no interactions between the Radiant and Viper that display any sort of relationship prior to Reyna joining the VALORANT protocol. A possible explanation is that Reyna simply doesn't remember this due to her young age, and Viper prefers to keep this truth hidden. This is common practice between the scientist and Brimstone, as both know more than they told the other agents, or maybe this is a relationship which will be explored more in depth in the future. The other age scale we could consider is Reyna being around a decade younger than Viper, but the apparent age difference in the card makes this completely unlikely. This means that there is only one viable scenario I saw for the child to be Reyna, and it was quite surprising honestly. Now it's time to consider the child to be Reyna's sister. I mentioned previously that we can't really pinpoint how old she is, so there are a lot of age combinations between Reyna and her sister. I'll go over all the combinations that are possible and then quickly explain the unlikely ones. To be more precise, there are 6 possibilities, out of which I believe only 2 are possible. The first is Reyna being much younger than Viper and roughly the same age as her sister, and the explanation is very similar to Reyna's scenario. Killjoy would be too young to have created the machines, so she's still alive. The represented age difference is fitting, and the lack of an explicit relationship can be easily explained. The other combination is Reyna being not much younger than Viper and older than her sister. If this were the case, Reyna's sister could be the same age as the little girl, Viper would still be working for Kingdom, and it would place Killjoy in an age range where she could have built the machines, and this could be the moment prior to the girl's death. Alright, but what about the other 4 combinations though? Why aren't those possible? Well, before explaining why, I'll list them off real quick. Reyna is much younger than Viper and older than her sister, Reyna is much younger than Viper and younger than her sister, Reyna is a bit younger than Viper and the same age as her sister, and finally, Reyna is a bit younger than Viper and younger than her sister. In all 4 cases, the age scale doesn't really coincide with what we see on the card, but let me know in the comments if you think one of these 4 combinations is actually possible. After all that, we are left with just 3 possible scenarios, 1 for Reyna and 2 for her sister. With this, we could say that it is more likely that the child is Reyna's sister, right? Nope. There is something else we haven't considered yet, and that's the precedent set by every other Agent versus card. The agents depicted in the lower part of the card have been the same as those in the top for 4 out of 4 we've had so far, even in the Sova vs Cypher one, where we see Sova's eye overlooking Cypher. Many people have speculated that this isn't really Cypher, but a look at this high resolution version clears any doubts. What I'm saying is that if we follow the trend the previous versus cards have created, the little girl in the card is none other than the Mexican Radiant, Reyna. So then, what's the answer? Is it Reyna or her sister? Well, unfortunately, I can't give an answer that will be 100% correct as much as I want to, since that can only be done by the creative team. If there is no confirmation, we also have the new voice lines that are coming soon, and we can hope for the release of a higher resolution version of this versus card. That being said, from what I've put together, I can say that I firmly believe that the answer is Reyna. It is also definitely possible that I'm on the wrong here, and the discussion's still open, so don't be discouraged and join the VALORANT Lore /art Discord server if you want to show your theory. I could end the video here, but I want to put out some other thoughts I've had while making the script. The doll the little girl has is wearing a purple dress and there is something yellow on her hair. I think this is a crown which, together with the dress, has heavily influenced Reyna's clothing as well as her call sign, that is, the name used by the other agents to refer to her. We have to keep in mind that call signs are not chosen by the agents themselves. They have some level of influence, but it is assigned to them by someone else. We also know that Viper has contracted Breach through this line.
Well done, Breach. I knew hiring you was a good idea.
So if Viper is one of the people who assigns the call signs, could this mean that it was her who suggested the name Reyna based on this experience? And that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this lore discussion and feel free to share any thought you may have. This took a good while to put together, so if you liked it, a like and subscribe are greatly appreciated. Also, don't forget to check the description for the sources used in this video, as well as links to my socials. That's all for today then. Until next time, happy lore hunting and have a nice day.